Biden may have to court a critical demographic that helped elect him in 2020 in order to help him win the Oval Office again. In 2020, according to Pew Research, Biden won the under 30 voting bloc by a resounding 24% margin. But the latest NBC News poll is revealing an alarming shift for the Democratic incumbent. The poll finds Biden trailing former President Donald Trump among young voters ages 18 to 34 by 4 percentage points, a small but notable margin. A new report from political advocacy group Ignite is shedding more light on Gen Z voters who are more politically empowered than ever, with 63% of poll respondents saying that they're planning to vote in 2024. But voter participation doesn't always translate to enthusiastic partisan support. That same report finds that Gen Z approaches political ideology with more reservation, rejecting partisan labels at a higher rate than the general population. Joining me now, Shania Bennett, the youngest elected member of the Philadelphia City Council representing the 48th Ward. She is also an Ignite fellow. Shania, it's nice to see you this morning. That new Ignite report that we just talked about finds that Gen Z voters increasingly rejecting party labels, with 30% of the respondents identifying as, quote, independent. What do you attribute to younger voters rejecting being pegged to a specific party identity?
Thank you for having me, Katie. Just really a quick correction. I'm not on city council. I'm a committee person in Philadelphia. But to answer your question, when it comes to the rejection of party labels by Gen Z, that can be attributed to the fact that we just don't want to be labeled. We're more driven by our desire to have our issues addressed and not the party itself.
So some of the top issues that we're hearing about time and time again, Shania, for Gen Z voters includes mass shootings, climate change, racial inequity, mental health, and abortion. Shania, these are all issues that President Biden has successfully and very vocally supported, and frankly, Donald Trump certainly has not. So why any dip in support for President Biden?
To be honest, what I can tell you about these issues, specifically speaking to mass shootings, is that if we're going to talk about engagement, getting individuals out to vote, it's more about connectedness. Gen Z has an unfortunate, unfathomable connectedness to the issues of mass shootings, climate change, abortion access, than any other generation to date. These issues are deeply personal to us. They're not abstract, and candidates ought to run like they know that.
So there's a lot of Democrats that fear that despite the reality of a positive economic outlook, social media contributes to a negative attitude that's brewing with younger Americans. The Washington Post pointed out this week that on TikTok, for example, the hashtag economy collapsing reached a fever pitch this past month and generated tens of millions of views. Even though inflation markedly cooled, growth remains robust, and unemployment stayed near record lows. How should Democrats be combating distorted economic narratives that are occurring online?
Thanks for that. Thank you for that. I think it's very important to note that our finding found that most of Gen Z and millennial voters get their information from digital outlets and social media. And I think that political candidates have the unique opportunity to engage Gen Z in a way that's never done before. You got to think about it. This is not 15 years ago where an individual may read a newspaper or watch the evening news. We're always getting notifications. And honestly, anyone can post anything. And so I think that if political candidates want to combat misinformation, dissatisfaction, they have to be intentional about meeting us where we are and spreading the message that they want out there to engage us properly.
You know, and Shania, I found this Ignite report to be very interesting. It said that roughly 70% of women and non-binary Gen Zers say they would be more likely to vote if there was more diversity among candidates regarding gender, race, and age, as well as candidates speaking to the issues young people care about. I mean, that makes sense. I'm definitely not Gen Z. But it makes sense to want that. Even I, not Gen Z, would want that. So as long as a candidate, for example, like President Biden, can meet the voters where they are from the Gen Z bloc when it comes to the issues, when it comes to making sure that those issues are addressed in a second-term administration, is that sufficient for Gen Z voters, or are they just singularly looking for somebody that is just different than what that candidate is?
It goes back to the point of Gen Z deeply belongs and desires for an individual that speaks directly to their issues. But it's key to note that diversity is going to be a major factor, not just diversity in age, race, socioeconomic status, sexual identity, or orientation, but diversity in lived life experience with an element of authenticity. Recently, I've had the opportunity to serve as a field staffer for Mayor-elect Sherelle Parker in Philadelphia's historical mayoral race, both the primary and general election. And what I learned on the ground very quickly was that Gen Z desired diversity, which, I mean, the study proves that helped catapult Sherelle Parker into becoming Philadelphia's 100th mayor and the first female mayor. I mean, it ties all together. They want candidates with lived life experience. They want candidates that also can, again, speak directly to their issues with a proven political track record.
Shania Bennett, thanks so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me, Judy.